Woohoo! Oh yeah. This is fishing at Awoonga Dam. The wind's just picked up and the action's been dead slow, but since this wind has picked up, so's the action. I've had a couple little tips on this bank, just the faintest little taps. Whoa. Oh, it's a nice little barra. He's not big by Awoonga standards. We have caught some great fish on this trip, up to 1.14 m. But the gun lure is a 5-inch Hollowbelly. And we've been fishing those on these backbone jig heads. So we'll take a look at the system in a minute, but first, let's try and, whoa, he just wet me, that fish. Let's try and get this fish in. I'm not going to worry about the net for this guy, he's just a little fella. But what we will do is make sure we get a good grip there. I'm just going to slide him up my hand so I've got his weight supported there. So we don't want to hurt these magnificent Awoonga barramundi. And check that out on the 5-inch Hollowbelly, a Tennessee shad colour. About, pretty sure that's a 1/2 ounce jig head, that one there. And I've just been hopping that around the weed. Popping it out, up off the bottom, a few winds, letting it sink. And that fish, it just took that on the drop, just scoffed it. I just had a little tap just before he hit it. That's awesome. Let's get this baby back in the water. I'll just pop these hooks out, keep supporting that belly weight. That's the second fish I've caught on that plastic, and I could probably still get another fish out of it, but it's a little bit torn. Okay, pop this baby back in the water. Support that weight. Just give it a little swim before, oh, it's biting down already, it's fresh. It's ready to go, let's let him go. See you, buddy. That was awesome. I love catching these impoundment barramundi. That fish was a cracker, only small but great fun, pulled hard. And you'll notice that the gear I'm using, it's not your standard impoundment barramundi fishing gear, it's a spin outfit. I'm fishing a Diablo spin rod and it's teamed up with this 60 size STX Sauron spin reel. And I've got that spooled up with some 30-pound strand braid. The secret that I use for landing a lot of those big fish is to use a fluorocarbon leader, and this particular stuff, it's called strand fluorocarbon. It's 60-pound breaking strain. The beauty of the strand fluorocarbon is it's got great abrasion resistance. Those barra, they've got tough mouths and they're well known for biting through leaders, and even the gill rakes are quite sharp, so they can bite you off. But believe it or not, we haven't lost any fish, and we've caught hundreds of them on strand and vanished fluorocarbon leaders. It's just great stuff. Now, if you're coming to these impoundments, make sure you bring some Hollowbellies. They come in a range of sizes, and on this particular trip, we've found that the medium-sized one's working quite well. It's a 5-inch bait. You can actually get them in different sizes. You'll see the smaller brother of that. That's the 4-inch bait there, and they do actually make a 6-inch. That's what we normally use, but we've found the fish feeding on smaller baits this particular trip, so the 5-inch has worked very well. Now, I've got that Hollowbelly rigged up on a special jig head. It's a nitro backbone jig, and you'll notice that jig head, it's got bigger keeper barbs than normal jig heads. And the beauty of that is it hangs onto the hollow inside of this bait quite well. A standard jig head, it's just going to keep popping out when you're putting in those big casts. So make sure that you've got good big keeper barbs on your jig. Go for the backbone jigs. When you're rigging your Hollowbelly up, you whack on your jig head, and then what you do is you lay your head alongside the bait just to see where the hook's going to come out in the tail. We want to get this bait nice and straight so it swims beautifully through the water, nice and natural. So then we just feed the hook up the hollow section, making sure that we stay inside the hollow section of the bait, and we come out where we think that hook has to be and snug him up over those keepers. Just ease him up. You can even moisten those keepers up a little bit, makes it slide a little bit better, but we won't need to here. And there we go, there's our bait. Just there, and you'll notice that that's nice and straight on the hook, and that's what you want. Let's have a little look at how we fish this bait. Let's give this lure a go and have a look at the technique that I've been using to catch my fish at Awoonga. So, going to use a big long cast with the spin rod, fire that right out, and that's one of the beauties of using the spin gear, is that we can put in those big long casts. We don't have to worry about backlashes. There's quite a bit of wind blowing through here. I just use the wind to my advantage and let it pump that cast right out. You notice I haven't even wound yet. Today we're catching our fish right off the bottom. So now the lure's actually touched down. I'm just going to take a series of winds, and the whole time that little tail's it's paddling there like that, I've stopped winding now, the lure's gone back to the bottom. Once again, a series of winds. So that's all I'm doing, is just making that lure. As soon as I start winding, it swims up off the bottom and it sinks back down. So up off the bottom, sinks back down. And hits have actually been coming because the fish is swimming the whole time, that little fish-shaped plastic. They've been coming as I wind up off the bottom and also as the tail's paddling as the lure sinks back down. That last fish took it on the drop. As I'm retrieving that lure, sometimes I might just give a little twitch, especially if I feel weed, because those twitches, especially when you do get that weed and you touch down in it, you can give a bit harder twitch, and quite often it'll rip the bait back up out the weed, and then as it falls down the other side, right to the base of the weed, that's where a fish could be sitting. When you're fishing soft plastics and the fish are tough, sometimes you've got to slow things right down, and that's pretty important to remember. But having said that, keep the lure moving most of the time. Let it touch the bottom, but keep it moving slowly. There's no need to rush things. Just a nice steady retrieve, that's all we need to do, just to give that tail the action. Hollowbellies, you can move them dead slow. That's the beauty of these plastics. There's not too many that can move as slow as a hollowbelly and work. Barra are lazy fish most of the time. You will also catch them winding fast, but most of the time, nice and slow. Just remember to mix it up. Now I did say make sure your lure touches the bottom, and the way that you tell that is you watch your line all the time. And as you see your line go slack, you know the lure's touched the bottom. Once it's on the bottom, just your series of winds. Wait for it to go slack. There it is. Series of winds. That's how we do it. When there's a lot of weed around in the dam you're fishing for your barra, make sure that you fish the submerged weed beds. Try and find pockets and fish your lures right back into them. It pays to wear polarised sunglasses so that you can see all those little spots to throw into, because quite often the barra will just dart out of those hidey holes and just nab your lure as it goes past. So there's a few tips for you next time you come to a barramundi impoundment. But remember, it pays to have a range of lures, not just soft plastics of different sizes and shapes and jig head weights, but also hard bodies. And mix everything up. They're not going to always take the same thing. They are a pretty temperamental fish, and they can be tough. Today they've been tough for us, but the hollowbelly, it's paid off, so give them a go.